Hello everyone, and thank you for choosing to spend your evening here with me. If you enjoy these stories, I'd truly appreciate your subscription, like, and comments. It only takes a second for you, but it means the world to me and helps make each video even better. Now, get comfortable and let's begin. Today's story is dedicated to the 14 greatest creations of human hands, 7 legendary monuments of antiquity, and 7 monuments chosen by our contemporaries. From grandiose stone giants that have gazed upon the endless sands for millennia to dazzling shrines that still evoke awe in the hearts of millions. These masterpieces will reveal to us the secrets of the architects of the past, the mysteries of vanished civilizations, and humanity's unquenchable desire to touch immortality. Our narrative is designed for 2 hours of leisurely storytelling. Make yourself comfortable, close your eyes, and allow the words to transport you into the realm of dreams. Let majestic vaults and ancient ruins, fragrant terraces and colossal statues arise before your mind's eye. We will explore each wonder in detail, from conception and realization, through the legends passed down by tradition, from cultural heritage to the sensational finds of archaeologists. Imagine the hot desert wind touching your face, while the rustle of exotic plants in the soaring gardens lulls you more gently than a mother's lullaby. Turn off the lights, let go of the day's anxieties, and let us begin this magical journey. The Pyramid of Khufu at Giza is the only wonder of antiquity that has withstood the onslaught of the ages. On the west bank of the Great Nile, on a stony plateau near modern Cairo, the Great Pyramid rises to the heavens. It is the heart of a grandiose complex uniting the pyramids of Khafra and Menkaure, the enigmatic Sphinx, and a scattering of smaller structures. This necropolis of ancient Memphis gained UNESCO World Heritage status in 1979 under the name Memphis, and its necropolis the Pyramid Fields from Giza to Dosha. The tomb was erected during the Old Kingdom era under the 4th dynasty, approximately between 2580 and 2560 BC. It was intended for Pharaoh Khufu, the second ruler of the dynasty, whom the Hellenes called Cheops. Khufu's reign lasted from 23 to 26 years. It was an era of prosperity for the Egyptian state, when pharaohs were revered as earthly incarnations of gods, and pyramids served as ladders to eternal existence in the afterlife. Why was the pyramidal shape chosen specifically? Egyptian religion saw in it a symbol of the sun's rays descending to earth, or the primordial Mount Benben, from which the universe was born. The tomb constituted only part of an extensive funerary ensemble. Nearby stood a temple of worship, a valley temple for embalming rituals, and a lengthy causeway connecting these structures together. The pyramid did not exist in isolation. It was surrounded by mastobas, rectangular tombs of the nobility, including the tomb of the pharaoh's mother, Hetepheres. Archaeologists discovered the Queen Mother's burial in 1925 in a pit near the pyramid. Among the treasures were exquisite furniture, precious jewelry, and an intriguing detail: an empty sarcophagus. Perhaps the body was moved out of fear of tomb robbers. Let us talk about the scale. It staggers even the sophisticated contemporary. Originally, the monument reached 146.6 meters in height, taller than most Gothic cathedrals of medieval Europe. For over 3,800 years, the pyramid held the title of the tallest structure on the planet, losing it only to Lincoln Cathedral in England around the 14th century. Today, having lost its casing and worn by erosion, it rises to 138.5 meters. The square base has a side of 230.3 meters. The foundation area exceeds 5 hectares. Imagine 10 football fields. The volume is estimated at 2.6 million cubic meters, and the mass is approximately 6 million tons. About 2.3 million stone blocks are stacked into this mass. The average weight of each is 2.5 tons, but individual granite monoliths in the King's Chamber weigh as much as 80 tons. Disassemble the pyramid and lay the blocks in a line. They would stretch across 2/3 of the Earth's equator, about 25,000 kilometers. Materials were delivered from different parts of the country. The main mass is Neolithic limestone, quarried right on the Giza plateau. In this stone, fossils of marine creatures are preserved, a reminder of the times when waves splashed here. For the outer casing, snow-white limestone was brought from Tura from the opposite bank of the Nile. Polished to a mirror shine, it turned the pyramid into a radiant crystal visible from dozens of kilometers away. Granite for the internal chambers and the sarcophagus was delivered from Aswan, more than 900 kilometers upstream. How were such giants moved? They were likely floated on barges during periods of low flooding and then dragged on wooden sleds, pouring water on the sand to reduce friction. The construction of the pyramid was the apogee of the engineering thought of ancient Egypt. Herodotus, who visited these lands in the 5th century BC, wrote of 20 years of construction and 100,000 workers. However, modern scholars, relying on archaeological finds, adjust these figures. About 20,000 people worked constantly. At the height of the season, their number increased to 40,000. And let us debunk a popular myth. These were not slaves, but qualified craftsmen and peasants working during the period of low floods when the fields went underwater. This is evidenced by the workers' town at Giza, where archaeologists excavated bakeries, breweries, clinics, and cemeteries with tombs decorated with the proud names of the crews. Friends of Khufu, drunkards of Menkaure. In 2013, the world saw the Diary of Mira, a papyrus from Wadi al-Jarf dated to the 27th year of Khufu's reign. The official describes the transportation of limestone from Tura on barges. The journey took 4 days, and the laborers received bread, beer, and meat, not a slave's ration. How exactly did the pyramid grow? There are many theories. The dominant one suggests the use of ramps, straight, zigzag, or spiral, encircling the building. In 2018, in the Hatnub quarry, a system of inclined roads with stairs and posts for ropes was discovered, allowing blocks to be raised at a 20 angle. Other hypotheses include levers, rollers, and even water channels around the construction site. The blocks were processed with copper saws with abrasive sand, and water and sand paste grinding was used for an ideal fit. The accuracy of orientation to the cardinal points is striking. The deviation is only 3 minutes 38 seconds of arc. Perhaps the builders used astronomical observations, gnomon shadows, or the positions of the stars. The internal architecture of the pyramid is a real labyrinth of mysteries. The entrance on the north wall, at an 18-meter height, leads into a descending corridor, 105 meters long, cut into the rock at a 26 angle. Next begins the ascending corridor to the Grand Gallery, a stunning inclined hall, 47 meters long, 10 meters wide, 8.6 meters high. The walls narrow stepwise toward the ceiling. From here, the path leads into the King's Chamber, a room 10.5 by 5.2 meters, lined with red granite. Here rests a granite sarcophagus, but it is empty. Khufu's mummy has not been found, stolen back in antiquity. Above the King's Chamber are 5 relieving chambers that distribute the pressure of the stone mass. Inscribed with the name of the pharaoh, they are found their irrefutable proof of authorship. Below is the Queen's Chamber, 5.7 meters in size, with a niche for a statue and 2 shafts going up at an angle. These channels, opened in 1872, were first considered ventilation shafts. Now they are associated with rituals. The shafts are directed towards Sirius, the star of the goddess Isis, and Orion's belt, the constellation of the goddess Iris, helping the pharaoh's soul ascend to the stars. There is also a subterranean chamber at a 30-meter depth, cut into the rock but unfinished. Perhaps the original plan changed. A well shaft connects the gallery to the subterranean corridor. Legends say that it was used by robbers. In 1954, near the southern side of the pyramid, Khufu's solar bark was found, a cedar ship 43 meters long, disassembled into 1224 fragments. The bark symbolized the ruler's journey through the afterlife, and is now exhibited in the Grand Egyptian Museum. A second bark was discovered in 1987, but has not been fully extracted. A thick fog of myths envelops the pyramid. The Greeks considered it the creation of slaves. Excavations dispelled this myth. The builders were free and proud of their labor. Esotericists see encoded knowledge in the proportions. The ratio of the perimeter to the height is supposedly equal to $2 pi dollar, and the geometry corresponds to the golden ratio. Scientists argue coincidence or intent. Theories of the pyramid as an observatory or an energy generator remain without proof. Arab traditions of the 19th century promised treasures inside mummies, star maps. But when Caliph al-Ma'mun broke a tunnel in the 9th century, he found only an empty tomb. Modern science reveals new secrets. The Scan Pyramids project, launched in 2015, uses Moon tomography. Cosmic rays penetrate the stone without destroying it. In 2017, a large void was discovered above the Grand Gallery, a cavity at least 30 meters long and 8 meters wide. Another chamber, a relieving structure, a mystery. In 2023, a hidden corridor was opened on the north wall, a horizontal tunnel 9 meters long with a chevron ceiling. Its purpose, load distribution, or hiding something greater. The passage is blocked. Behind it, perhaps, more space is hidden. And in 2025, news shocked the world. Italo-Scottish teams, including Corrado Malonga and Filippo Biondi, using radar, synthetic aperture radar from satellites, and seismic vibrations, discovered a colossal underground complex beneath the Giza plateau. The structures lie at a depth of up to 600 meters, twice as deep as the Eiffel Tower. The extent reaches to kilometers. 8 vertical cylindrical shafts about 640 meters deep are surrounded by spiral paths, leading to 2 cubic structures with a side of 76 meters, and a 5-level building connected by passages. The cylinders are located under each of the 3 Great Pyramids. They perhaps served as entrances. Some sources speak of a symmetrical underground city, but this is debatable. Egyptian officials, including Zahi Hawass, reject the finds as unpeer-reviewed and exaggerated, pointing to the limitations of radar at such depth. Skeptics see here evidence of a lost branch of the Nile along which the pyramids were built, or even an ancient energy system. Research continues, but obtaining permission for excavations is not easy. The influence of the pyramid on world culture is immeasurable. Napoleon exclaimed in 1798, "Soldiers, 40 centuries, look down upon you." It flickers in films from Indiana Jones to conspiracy thrillers. Today it is Egypt's main attraction, but millions of tourists pose a threat of erosion and pollution. Mark Lenner and other archaeologists continue excavations of the workers' town. In 2020, a lost fragment of the casing was discovered in the Aberdeen Museum, dated to 334-1394 BC. Possibly recycled material from an earlier era. The pyramid serves as a reminder. 4.5 millennia ago, people created an eternal monument that outlasted empires. Khufu's tomb remains not only an engineering triumph of the ancient Egyptians, but also an eternal testament to humanity's thirst for immortality. Its mysteries continue to be revealed, inspiring new generations of scientists and dreamers. The first wonder of the ancient world concludes its story. We move to the next. The Hanging Gardens of Babylon, perhaps the most enigmatic and romantic of the ancient wonders. They are associated with Babylon in Mesopotamia on the lands of modern Iraq. Dating points to the 6th century BC, the golden period of the Neo-Babylonian Empire under King Nebuchadnezzar I, who ruled from 605 to 560 to BC. A renowned conqueror and builder, he turned Babylon into the most brilliant city of the era with cyclopean walls, ziggurats, and palaces. The gardens, according to tradition, he created for his spouse Amethyst, a Median princess who yearned for the green hills and forests of her mountainous homeland. In sultry, dusty Mesopotamia, where the Euphrates and Tigris were the sources of life, such an oasis would have been a true wonder, a man-made paradise raised above the earth. The name Hanging Gardens of Babylon is a Greek interpretation, Semiramis is the legendary Syrian queen Shamaromet, who ruled in the 9th century BC, but historians believe that the Greeks confused her with Ametis, or attributed the gardens to a more famous person. Descriptions have reached us primarily from Greco-Roman authors. Babylonian sources remain silent, which is intriguing in itself. The first to mention them was Antipater of Sidon in the 2nd century BC. Detailed descriptions were left by Berossus, a Babylonian priest of the 3rd century BC, quoted by Josephus Flavius Strabo and Diodorus Siculus in the 1st century BC, and Quintus Curtius Rufus in the 1st century AD. They depict a multi-tiered construction, similar to an artificial mountain with terraces rising to 25 meters, like a 7-story building. Each level rested on vaulted arches and columns of fired brick. On top, a 3 to 4 meter layer of soil was poured for the rooting of large trees. Imagine the lower tier, a vast platform, perhaps 120 by 100 meters, with fountains and reservoirs fed by the waters of the Euphrates. Above were smaller terraces, planted with exotic flora, palms, cypresses, fig trees, roses, lilies, and fruit trees, hanging because the plants cascaded from the edges of the ledges, creating the illusion of a soaring forest. To protect against moisture seepage, the terraces were covered with a layer of bitumen natural asphalt, mined in Mesopotamia lead plates, and reeds. Advanced waterproofing for that era. Perhaps the gardens were part of the royal palace complex, or even the Etemenenki ziggurat, the prototype of the biblical Tower of Babel. The irrigation system was likely the most impressive part. Water from the Euphrates was raised to the upper tiers by mechanical devices. Archimedes screws, spiral pumps, chain lifts with buckets, or water wheels driven by slaves, animals, or even the wind. Strabo describes how the water flowed in cascades, providing coolness and humidity in the scorching climate. Daily water consumption could be measured in thousands of liters. A genuine engineering marvel in a land where there is almost no precipitation, and the summer heat exceeds 40 degrees Celsius. Construction is estimated to have taken years and required thousands of workers, including gardeners from different parts of the empire, who brought seeds and saplings from Persia, India, and even Egypt. Bricks were fired in giant kilns. Plants were adapted to the local climate, a precursor to modern hydroponics. But here is the main intrigue. Did the gardens actually exist? Archaeological evidence is ambiguous. The German archaeologist Robert Koldewey conducted excavations in Babylon from 1899 to 1917. Under the auspices of the German Oriental Society, he discovered massive walls, gates, a ziggurat with glazed bricks now in the Pergamon Museum in Berlin, and the ruins of Nebuchadnezzar's palace. He identified a vaulted room with channels as the possible foundation of the gardens, but found no traces of terraces or vegetation. Subsequent excavations in the 1930s and 1950s by Iraqi scientists, as well as research in the 1980s under Saddam Hussein, who tried to reconstruct Babylon, also brought no direct evidence. In 20,032,004, after the invasion of Iraq, international teams, including UNESCO, surveyed the monument, but war and looting caused heavy damage. Alternative theories are gaining weight. In 2013, the British Assyriologist Stephanie Daly of Oxford suggested that the gardens were located, not in Babylon but in Nineveh, the Assyrian capital, under King Sennacherib, who ruled from 705 to 681 BC. Her arguments rely on Syrian reliefs from Nineveh, now in the British Museum, depicting multi-tiered gardens with aqueducts, trees, and even exotic animals. Sennacherib boasted in inscriptions, "I created gardens like the Amanus Mountains and planted all kinds of trees." He erected a 50-kilometer aqueduct from Joan using stone arches, a technology preceding the Roman one. Daly suggests that the Greeks, who conquered the region under Alexander the Great, confused Nineveh with Babylon and Semiramis with an Assyrian queen. Cuneiform analysis confirms that Assyrian texts mention the Bitikichu hanging gardens, while Babylonian ones do not. Recent research adds fuel to the fire. In 2023, a team from Tel Aviv University and the Iraq Museum, using satellite imagery and ground-penetrating radar, surveyed the ruins of Nineveh near modern Mosul and discovered traces of ancient canals and terraces under a layer of soil. It is suggested that the gardens could have occupied 300 hectares with artificial lakes. In 2024, an article in the Journal of Near Eastern Studies suggested that hanging was a translation error. The Akkadian Musari means terraced, not suspended. And in early 2025, a study published in the February issue of All About History by scientists at Cambridge University, analysing new cuneiform tablets from the British Museum from the 6th century BC, concluded the gardens were likely located in Nineveh and were part of Sennacherib's grandiose botanical complex. Three-dimensional modelling and climate analysis show that the gardens included rare plants from conquered lands, serving as propaganda for imperial power. However, scientists including Zahi Hawass and Irving Finkel urge caution. Without excavations in Mosul, where conflicts continue, this remains a hypothesis. If the gardens existed in Babylon, their fate was tragic. After the conquest of the city by the Persians in 539 BC, Cyrus the Great preserved the buildings. Alexander the Great, in 331 BC, planned a restoration but did not have time. Death took him earlier. An earthquake in the 2nd century BC, floods of the Euphrates, and the oblivion of the Parthian era could have destroyed the gardens. Diodorus mentions that by the 1st century AD, only ruins remained of them. If they were in Nineveh, then the Medes and Babylonians destroyed the city in 612 BC, and the remains are buried under modern Mosul. Myths about the gardens breathe poetry. They symbolized Eden. Perhaps the biblical Garden of Eden was inspired by them. As Babylon is linked to the Jewish captivity, Persian paradises enclosed gardens grew from this tradition. The legend of Semiramis as a warrior and builder adds romance. Supposedly she ruled for 42 years, conquering India and Egypt. In medieval Europe, the gardens were depicted in miniatures as a symbol of luxury in the Age of Enlightenment. As an example of ancient engineering, their influence can be traced in the gardens of Versailles of Louis Chiv with terraces and fountains, and in modern Singaporean super trees. Cinema, from Griffith's Intolerance 1916 to modern blockbusters, reconstructs them as grandiose sets. Today, the gardens are an object of virtual reconstructions. In 2022, a UNESCO project using VR showed what they might have looked like with a 360-degree view of the terraces and the gurgling of water. Tourists visit the partially restored ruins of Babylon, but the true search is conducted in Nineveh, where ISIS destroyed artifacts in 20,142,017, but restoration is now underway. In 2025, a new expedition with drones and analysis is planned to discover underground structures. The Hanging Gardens teach that legends intertwine with history, and human imagination creates eternal wonders, even out of myths. They remain shrouded in mystery, symbolizing the dream of paradise on earth. Their image is a hymn to ingenuity and the quest for beauty, whether in Babylon or Nineveh. The second wonder concludes its story. The Temple of Artemis at Ephesus, the greatest temple of the Hellenic world. Let us transport ourselves to the coast of the Aegean Sea in ancient Ionia, where the Temple of Artemis shown in Ephesus, one of the prosperous palaces of antiquity. This temple, erected around 550 BC, honored the goddess of the hunt, the moon, and fertility, and was considered the pinnacle of Greek architecture. Ephesus, in the territory of modern Turkey near Seluk, was a trade hub where the paths of Asia and Europe converged, and the temple became its heart, attracting pilgrims from all over the Mediterranean. The patron was the Lydian king Colossus, famed for his untold riches. Architects Chersiphron and Metagenes from Knossos worked on the project. Construction stretched for approximately 120 years, which emphasizes the grandiosity of the design. The temple served not only as a sanctuary, but also as a symbol of power and piety. It was a dipteros, a type of Greek temple with a double row of columns around the cella. The dimensions were staggering: 115 meters in length, 55 meters in width, and 127 marble columns, 18 meters high with carved bases and capitals. Each column was a gift from a ruler or a polis, making the temple a collective creation of the Hellenic world. Inside rose a statue of Artemis, made in the chryselephantine technique, gold and ivory. The goddess was depicted with many breasts symbolizing fertility, although some scholars interpret them as nuts or eggs. She was surrounded by deer and bees, emphasizing her connection with nature and the hunt. The temple also performed an economic function. Treasures were stored here, and its status as a sanctuary protected fugitives. Pliny, in his Natural History, called it one of the most wonderful creations, and Antiquity of Sidon included it in the list of wonders. The erection of the temple was an engineering feat. Marble was quarried in nearby quarries of Mount Prion and transported on wooden rollers and sleds. Both slaves and free craftsmen labored. The foundation was laid on marshy soil to dampen earthquakes. Vitruvius, in 10 books on architecture, describes layers of charcoal and wool under the base. Columns were raised using ramps and levers. The friezes were decorated with reliefs of myths about Artemis, her birth, wedding, and the hunt of Actaeon. The interior was decorated with the paintings of Apelles and the sculptures of Praxiteles, a true museum of art. The fate of the temple was tragic. In 356 BC, it was consumed by a fire set by Herostratus for the sake of posthumous fame. Legend has it, on that night Alexander the Great was born, and Artemis, helping his appearance into the world, did not save her temple. Alexander later offered to restore the sanctuary, but the Ephesians refused. It is not fitting for a god to build a temple to a god. The new temple, erected in the 3rd century BC by the architect Dinocrates, surpassed its predecessor in scale. It rose on a platform 2.7 meters high and had 117 columns, some a gift from Alexander. The temple stood until the 3rd century AD, when the Goths plundered it in 262 AD. Earthquakes and the flood of the Meander River completed the destruction. In the 5th century, Emperor Theodosius I banned pagan cults, and the temple became unnecessary. Its stones went to Christian churches, including the Hagia Sophia in Constantinople. Archaeological excavations began in the 19th century. In 1863, John Turtlewood, with the support of the British Museum, commenced the search, guided by Pliny's description. After 7 years, in 1870, he discovered the foundation under a 6-meter layer of marshy soil. The found columns, fragments, and reliefs featuring Amazons and griffins are now kept in the British Museum and the Ephesus Museum. Myths surrounding the temple are full of drama. Artemis of Ephesus was associated with the Anatolian mother goddess Cybele. Her cult included orgies and fertility rituals performed by eunuch priests, the Megabizoi. The legend of the Amazons founding the temple adds intrigue, suggesting they hid their treasures there. In the New Testament, the Acts of the Apostles describes a riot of Ephesian silversmiths against the Apostle Paul. They feared losing income from the sale of Artemis statuettes. The temple's influence on architecture is immense. Its style is reproduced in the Parthenon and Roman temples, such as the Temple of Venus in Rome. In art, from the canvases of Rubens to Hollywood epics, it personifies the lost greatness of Hellas. An Austrian expedition has been conducting excavations in Ephesus since 1895. In recent years, the focus has been on underground structures. In 2023, new reliefs of Artemis the Huntress from the 1st century BC were discovered. In January 2025, Turkish archaeologists reported significant finds in western Turkey, including additional foundation fragments hidden under the soil. In May of the same year, renewed excavations revealed underground tunnels, possibly used for rituals or storing treasures. Publications from July 2025 demonstrate how archaeologists are excavating partially visible columns, discovering impressive carvings and new mysteries. including possible underground rooms beneath the temple. In June, the publication The Archaeology of Artemis discussed the goddess's cultural influence with new artifacts, altars, and statuettes. These discoveries, made with the help of ground-penetrating radar and 3D scanning, contribute to the virtual reconstruction of the temple. Today, only one column remains, assembled from fragments in a marshy field. The UNESCO site is visited by millions annually. The Ephesus Museum houses the exhibits, reconstructions in Turkey's miniature parks, and computer models allow one to imagine the former splendor. The temple is a reminder of the fragility of human creations. The Temple of Artemis remains a symbol of the harmony of art, religion, and engineering, an eternal testament to Greek genius. Its ruins whisper stories of gods and men. The third wonder concludes its story, the statue of Zeus at Olympia, the throne of the Lord of the gods. The journey leads us to the sacred valley of Olympia in the western Peloponnese, where the grandiose statue of Zeus, king of the Olympians and master of lightning, once rose. This wonder, created around 435 BC by the brilliant Phidias, was not just an image, but an embodiment of divine power and human skill. Installed in the heart of the 5th century BC Temple of Zeus, Olympia, the cradle of the Olympic Games established in 776 BC, was a sacred sanctuary dedicated to the Thunderer, where every 4 years athletes from all over Hellas competed in running, wrestling, and discus throwing to the glory of the deity. The temple and statue became a symbol of Hellenic culture, attracting pilgrims, philosophers, and rulers. Alexander the Great himself revered Zeus as his heavenly father. Philo of Byzantium, in his treatise on the wonders, described the statue as something surpassing the imagination. Pausanias, in the 2nd century AD, in his description of Hellas, noted, "If Zeus stood up, he would break through the roof of the temple." The statue was colossal, about 12.4 meters in a sitting position, one of the largest sculptures of antiquity. It was executed in the chryselephantine technique. A wooden frame was covered with ivory plates for the skin and gold for the clothing and jewelry, creating the illusion of a living god. In his right hand, Zeus held a 2-meter statue of Nike, the goddess of victory. In his left, a scepter with an eagle, the symbol of power. The throne was a masterpiece in itself. Cedar, inlaid with ebony, gold, ivory, and gemstones, with reliefs of the birth of Aphrodite, the battle of the Lapis and Centaurs, and the feats of Heracles and Theseus. Sphinxes supported the legs of the throne, and Graces and nymphs decorated the back. Phidias worked in a special workshop near the temple, where archaeologists later found casting molds and tools to enhance the majesty. The floor in front of the statue was paved with black marble and filled with olive oil. It reflected the light and protected the ivory from drying out. The temple was built before the statue, between 470 and 456 BC, from local limestone with marble pediments depicting the myth of Pelops and the battle of the Lapis and Centaurs. Architect Liban of Elis designed it in the Doric style. 6 columns on the facade, 13 on the sides, each 10.4 meters high. The metopes demonstrated the 12 labors of Heracles. The temple stood in the center of the altars, a sacred grove surrounded by a wall, with altars, treasures of city-states, and a stadium for 40,000 spectators. Phidias, already famous for Athena in the Parthenon, spent about 8 years on Zeus, using African gold and Indian ivory. Legend has it, having finished the work, he asked the god if he was pleased. Lightning striking the floor became a sign of approval. The statue survived an earthquake thanks to shock absorbers in the foundation. But in the 5th century AD, by order of Theodosius I, it was moved to Constantinople, where it perished in a fire in 475 AD. The fate of the statue is mysterious. Some sources, like Georgios Kedrinos, claim it burned in Olympia in 425 AD. Most, however, lean toward the version of its transport to the capital of the empire, to the palace of Colossus. No direct remains have been found, only copies on coins, gems, and Roman statues of Jupiter. Excavations in Olympia began in the 19th century. In 1829, a French expedition discovered fragments of the metopes, and between 1875 and 1881, German archaeologists under the leadership of Ernst Curtius excavated the entire temple. They found Phidias's workshop with molds for ivory, tools, and even a cup with the inscription, "I belong to Phidias," irrefutable proof of authorship. In the 20th century, Greek scientists opened the stadium and the palaestra. In recent years, the focus has been on preserving the monuments. In 2004, before the Athens Olympics, the temple was restored. In the 2010s, laser scanning was used for 3D models. Myths around the statue add mystery. Zeus was considered the patron of the games. Athletes offered sacrifices to him, believing the god was watching them. Pausanias described how the statue inspired awe. Visitors wept at the sight of it. In the Roman era, Caligula tried to move it to Rome, but the scaffolding collapsed, and the statue, according to legend, laughed. The influence of the statue is immeasurable. It inspired Roman copies of Jupiter, medieval depictions of God the Father, and modern monuments like Lincoln in Washington and Christ the Redeemer in Rio. In art, from the drawings of Rubens to Hollywood films about gods, Zeus symbolizes power and majesty. The Olympic Games were revived in 1896, and the flame is lit in Olympia at the ruins of the temple. Modern research continues. Olympia has been on the UNESCO list since 1989. In 2023, bronze figurines of athletes were found in the sanctuary. In 2025, according to reports, an expedition discovered fragments of marble reliefs from the temple, possibly parts of the pediment with the myth of Pelops. These finds, dated to July, help understand the temple's decor and Phidias's technique. In March, in the vicinity, a monumental tomb with gold artifacts was excavated, including a ring with an image of Apollo, which is linked to the cult of Zeus. In June, bronze ruins and altars were identified. Using ground-penetrating radar and drones, scientists study underground structures, possibly workshops or altars. The museum houses the pediments and metopes. Millions visit the site. The statue of Zeus is an outstanding achievement of the creative spirit, a reminder of the spirit of competition and harmony. Its loss is a loss for humanity, but the ruins of Olympia continue to inspire. The fourth wonder concludes its story. The mausoleum at Halicarnassus, the tomb of eternal love. The journey leads us to ancient Caria on the southwestern coast of modern Turkey, to Halicarnassus Bodrum, where the mausoleum rose, a majestic tomb erected between 353 and 350 BC. This wonder was created in memory of King Mausolus, a satrap of the Persian Empire, and his sister spouse Artemisia I, who commissioned the construction after her husband's death, a symbol of eternal love and grief. Halicarnassus was a prosperous port founded by Dorians, with a population of 10,000 to 20,000, where Greek, Persian, and Carian cultures intertwined. Mausolus ruled Caria from 377 to 353 BC, strengthening the region, moving the capital to Halicarnassus, and turning it into a center of Hellenistic influence in Asia with powerful walls, a theater, and a palace. Antipater of Sidon included the mausoleum in the list of wonders for its beauty and scale. The word mausoleum itself became a synonym for a grandiose tomb. The mausoleum was not just a tomb, but an architectural masterpiece that fused Greek, Lycian, and Persian styles. Approximately 45 meters high, comparable to a 15-story building, it rose on a platform 38 by 32 meters and was crowned with a pyramidal roof with a quadriga, a chariot with 4 horses, driven by statues of Mausolus and Artemisia. The lower tier, a podium with friezes depicting battles of Amazons with Greeks and centaurs with lapiths, symbolized the triumph of civilization. The middle tier was surrounded by 36 Ionic columns 12 meters high. Between them were statues of lions, riders, and mythical creatures by the hands of sculptors. Leech chairs, Bryaxis, and Timotheus. Each was responsible for one side. The upper tier was a pyramid, with 24 steps leading to the marble quadriga. Inside was a burial chamber, with the sarcophagi of the spouses, surrounded by altars and gardens. Pliny described it as being suspended in the air. So airy was the construction. Construction was carried out under the leadership of the architects Satyros and Pythias. Marble from local quarries and imported stone were used. Thousands of workers, including Greek craftsmen, labored 4 years. Artemisia, who ruled after her husband's death, died 2 years later, not living to see the completion, but the builders finished the project in her honor. The mausoleum survived the conquest of Alexander the Great in 334 BC. He admired it and did not touch it. It stood for centuries through sieges and earthquakes. But in the 13th century, a powerful earthquake destroyed the pyramid. In 1494, the Knights Hospitaller, building Bodrum Castle, dismantled it almost completely. A 15th century legend by Claude Guichard states, "The knights found the sarcophagi, left them for the night, and in the morning discovered them plundered." Archaeological excavations began in the 19th century. In 1856, Charles Thomas Newton of the British Museum, following the descriptions of Vitruvius, discovered the foundation and fragments. He extracted the Amazon Omichi reliefs, statues of Mausolus and Artemisia now in the British Museum, and parts of the quadriga. In the 20th century, Turkish scientists discovered underground chambers and additional reliefs. Today, the open-air museum with the foundation, models, and fragments is part of the UNESCO list as an element of Bodrum. Myths about the mausoleum are full of romance. Artemisia, according to legend, mixed her husband's ashes with wine and drank it to become his living tomb, a testament to an unbreakable bond. Mausolus, son of Hecatomnus, the founder of the dynasty, made Korea semi-independent from Persia. His tomb influenced the design of the Taj Mahal and the Grant Memorial in New York. In literature, from Pliny to modern novels, it symbolizes eternal memory. Modern research brings the site to life. Excavations in Bodrum continue, focusing on underground structures. In 2025, Turkish archaeologists announced finds in western Turkey, including fragments possibly related to the mausoleum. Research on the tomb of Hecatomnus in Milas, the predecessor to the mausoleum, discovered in 2010, continues. In 2025, frescoes and sarcophagi were found. In June, an analysis in Milas revealed decorative details with gold ornaments and reliefs related to Mausolus. 3D scanning and ground-penetrating radar allow for the virtual reconstruction of the mausoleum. The mausoleum is a monument to love that has survived centuries, a reminder of how death inspires immortal creations. Its ruins in Bodrum call one to reflect on the fragility of fame. The fifth wonder concludes its story. Now to the island of Rhodes in the Aegean Sea, where at the entrance to the harbour rose the Colossus of Rhodes, a colossal bronze statue of the sun god Helios. This wonder was erected between 292 and 280 BC by the sculptor Chairs of Lindos, in honor of the Rhodians' victory over the siege of Demetrius Poliorcetes, the Macedonian general. In 304 BC, Rhodes, a prosperous trading island with a population of about 60,000, was famous for its shipbuilders and seafarers. Its three cities Lindos, Camiros, and Iolyssos united into a federation. The Colossus symbolized freedom and the patronage of Helios, whom the Rhodians revered as a protector. Philo of Byzantium called it the greatest creation in bronze. Pliny the Elder marveled. Few people could wrap their arms around the statue's thumb. The statue was enormous, about 33 meters, taller than the Statue of Liberty without the pedestal. It depicted Helios with a crown of rays on his head, holding a torch or simply gazing into the distance. There is a version that the legs were straddled over the harbor entrance, but modern scholars dispute this romantic legend. Most likely, the giant stood on a pedestal on a cape or a hill near the harbor. The statue's frame was iron, filled with stones for stability. and the surface was covered with bronze plates the thickness of a coin. Construction stretched over 12 years and cost 300 talents of silver, a colossal sum raised from the sale of Demetrius's siege engines. Chairs used a technique similar to bell casting. The bronze was melted in furnaces, and the plates were attached to the frame with copper nails. To lift the parts, an earthen ramp was built around the growing effigy, which was then dismantled. The legend of the straddled legs, allowing ships to pass beneath the statue, appeared in the Middle Ages and inspired many illustrations, including miniatures in the Alexander Romance. The Colossus stood for only 56 years. An earthquake in 226 BC broke it at the knees. The fragments fell to the ground, striking travelers with their majesty. Strabo wrote, "One hand of the statue exceeded the size of many whole sculptures." The Rhodians did not restore the giant, following a prophecy from an oracle warning of misfortune. The fragments lay for 800 years until 653 AD, when the Arabs, having conquered the island, sold them to a Syrian merchant. It took 900 camels to carry away the bronze. Since then, no trace of the Colossus remains, only legend and the image of Helios on Rhodian coins. Archaeological searches began in the 19th century. In 1856, the Italian Salvatore Bovi found fragments in the harbour, but they turned out to be from other sculptures. In the 20th century, Greek and Italian expeditions excavated the Rhodian Acropolis and found the Temple of Helios, but not the Colossus. Underwater work in the 90s, under the auspices of the Greek Ministry of Culture, revealed ancient walls and sunken ships. However, the statue was not found. Some scholars, such as Ursula Vedder, believe that the Colossus stood not in the harbour, but on Monte Smith Hill, where a pedestal was found. In 2008, it was proposed to restore the statue as a tourist attraction, but the economic crisis froze the project. Myths about the Colossus are full of exaggeration. The Greeks saw in it a guardian, similar to the Egyptian Colosseum of Memnon. The Romans copied it in statues of emperors. The Colossus influenced the creation of the Statue of Liberty. Both projects were developed by a Frenchman, and the connection is obvious. In literature, from Shakespeare in Julius Caesar to Hollywood adventures like Jason and the Argonauts, it symbolizes the fragility of greatness. Modern research focuses on location and reconstruction. In 2023, Greek archaeologists used ground-penetrating radar in the harbor of Rhodes, discovering possible foundations for statues. In 2025, discoveries revived interest. In July, Bethany Hughes, in a BBC documentary, The Seven Wonders of the World, explored possible locations of the statue with local experts, suggesting that the Colossus stood on a hill rather than in the harbour, based on new topographical data. In February, an article in The Archaeologist discussed the lost wonder with new models based on coins and reliefs showing the pose of Helios. In April, an updated guidebook to Rhodes mentioned recent finds on the Acropolis of Lindos, bronze fragments possibly related to the workshops of chairs. Although in July 2025, it was officially confirmed that no indisputable remains exist, underwater research with drones revealed ancient port structures, potentially including the base for the Colossus. These discoveries and image analysis contribute to the virtual recreation of the lost giant. Today, Rhodes is a popular tourist destination with an archaeological museum where models of the Colossus are presented. The ruins of the port and the Acropolis remind us of former greatness, and restoration plans are being discussed. The image of the giant is a reminder of triumph and fall, of a giant crushed by the elements. The Colossus of Rhodes remains a symbol of resilience and beauty, a guardian whose silhouette lives on in the imagination. Its story is a lesson in how time erases even titans. The sixth wonder concludes its story. The Lighthouse of Alexandria. Light in the darkness of the ancient world. The journey transports us to legendary Alexandria on the northern coast of Egypt, to the island of Pharaohs, where the Lighthouse of Alexandria rose, the last of the seven wonders of antiquity. This structure, erected between 285 and 247 BC by order of Ptolemy Isota, and his son Ptolemy Philadelphus, was not just a landmark for seafarers, but an embodiment of Hellenistic genius and the power of the Ptolemaic dynasty, which inherited Egypt after the death of Alexander the Great. Alexandria, founded in 331 BC, was a cosmopolitan metropolis with a population of up to 500,000 souls. Here were located the famed Library of Alexandria and the Mausoleum, which attracted scholars from all over the world. The lighthouse, designed by the architect Sostratus of Sienidis, served as navigation in the treacherous waters of the Nile, where reefs threatened ships carrying grain, papyrus, and spices vital for Mediterranean trade. According to accounts, the tower was visible from a day's journey away. Arab historians, such as al-Masudi in the 10th century, praised it as a wonder of wonders. The lighthouse was grandiose, with a height of 120 to 140 meters, surpassing many modern skyscrapers. It consisted of 3 tiers. The lower one was square, about 60 meters high, housing rooms for the guard and the mechanism for lifting fuel, built of white stone with granite corners for strength. The middle one, octagonal, about 30 meters, was decorated with balconies and statues of tritons. The upper one, cylindrical, was crowned with a dome with a bronze statue, presumably of Zeus, Poseidon, or perhaps Helios or Ptolemy himself. A fire at the summit burned day and night, fed by oil or wood, and was reflected in polished bronze mirrors, visible from a distance of 50 kilometers. Legend has it the mirrors could focus light to set enemy ships on fire, but this is likely a myth. Construction took 12 years and cost 800 talents of silver, a colossal sum. Ramps and cranes were used to lift blocks weighing up to 75 tons. Sostratus carved a commemorative inscription on the foundation. Sostratus, son of Dexophanes of Sienidis, to the savior gods for the welfare of seafarers. The lighthouse stood for centuries, serving as a landmark for Romans, Byzantines, and Arabs. It survived earthquakes in the 4th and 6th centuries, but in 956, 1303, and 1323, powerful tremors destroyed the upper tiers. By the 14th century, the lighthouse had turned into ruins, and in 1480, the Mamluk Sultan Qaitbay used its stones to build a fortress on the foundation. Underwater debris was discovered in the 1960s by French divers led by Jacques-Yves Cousteau. Columns, statues, and blocks were found in the harbor. In 1994, Jean-Yves Emperor's team began systematic excavations, discovering thousands of artifacts. Myths about the lighthouse are full of mysteries. The Greeks considered it a creation of the Ptolemies, and slaves thought it a magical tower with mirrors capable of seeing Constantinople. It inspired legends of pharaohs as a magical light leading souls into the afterlife. The lighthouse influenced all subsequent lighthouses, from Roman to modern ones, such as the Pharaoh's Lighthouse in Virginia. In art, from Pompeian mosaics to films about Cleopatra, it symbolizes enlightenment and navigation. Modern research brings the ruins to life. Underwater excavations in the harbor of Alexandria continue, focusing on the debris. In 2023, new granite blocks with hieroglyphs were found. In 2025, discoveries shocked the world. In July, a team led by French scientists raised 22 massive blocks from the bottom for digital reconstruction. These blocks, weighing up to 80 tons, were extracted to create a digital twin of the lighthouse, demonstrating its original appearance and the causes of its destruction. The project, led by Egyptian and European experts, combines archaeology and advanced technologies, raising stones from known sites and scanning 100 objects underwater. This will allow for the virtual recreation of the lighthouse, revealing the details of its construction. With the help of drones, scientists are analyzing how earthquakes destroyed the tower. Today, the citadel of Qaitbay rises on the site of the lighthouse. The Museum of Underwater Archaeology is also located here. Alexandria attracts divers to the ancient ruins. Virtual reconstructions allow the wonder to be seen anew. The lighthouse is a reminder of the light of knowledge scattering the darkness. The Lighthouse of Alexandria, is an eternal symbol of navigation and perseverance, a light that has survived the darkness of the ages. The 7 wonders of the ancient world conclude their story. We move on to the 7 new wonders of the modern era. The Great Wall of China, the dragon guarding the empire. Dear listeners, we transport ourselves to the 7 new wonders of the world, chosen in 2007 by a global vote organized by the Swiss foundation New 7 Wonders, in which millions of people around the world participated. These wonders reflect humanity's modern fascination with grandiose creations that have survived the centuries and emphasize cultural diversity. The first of these is the Great Wall of China, stretching across northern China like a giant dragon, symbolizing the resilience and unity of the nation. This structure, erected over the course of centuries from the 7th century BC to the 17th century AD, is not a single construction but represents a complex system of fortifications with towers and fortresses with a total length of more than 21,000 kilometers. This is enough to wrap around the earth 1.5 times. The wall crosses mountains, deserts, and rivers from the East China Sea to the Gobi Desert, serving as a border against the nomads of the north. The Chinese call it Wanli Chongqing, the Wall of 10,000 Li, emphasizing its vastness. The wall originated during the spring and autumn period, approximately in the 8th-5th centuries BC, when individual kingdoms erected earthen ramparts for protection against raids. Construction took on a true scale under the first emperor, Qin Shi Huang, who ruled from 221 to 210 BC. He unified China and connected disjointed sections into a single system, mobilizing millions of workers, soldiers, criminals, and peasants. Construction continued under the Han, Sui, Ming, and Qing dynasties, reaching its apogee in the 14th-17th centuries under the Ming, when brick walls and towers were added. The height varies from 6 to 9 meters, the width from 4 to 6, allowing 5 horsemen to ride abreast. Signal towers were located every 200 meters to transmit messages by smoke or fire. Materials: earth, stone, brick, and lime mixed with rice glue for strength. In certain sections, such as babbling, the wall rises up steep slopes at a 45 angle, a testament to engineering genius. The total volume of materials is estimated at 100 million cubic meters, enough for a 5-meter wall around the equator. The construction was a titanic labor that claimed the lives of millions due to hunger, exhaustion, and accidents. Legends speak of a wall of tears, where the bones of workers were supposedly immured in the foundation. Qin Shi Huang, also known for the Terracotta Army, used the wall to consolidate power, but it did not always stop invaders. The Mongols, led by Genghis Khan, broke through in the 13th century. Under the Ming, the wall was significantly reinforced. 25,000 towers and fortresses, including Shanhaiguan, the pass between the mountains and the sea, and Jiaguan in the west. Functions evolved from defense to controlling trade along the Great Silk Road. Myths about the wall are endless. Western legends claim it is visible from space. NASA has debunked this. From orbit, it looks like a thin line, invisible to the naked eye. Chinese tales tell of Lady Menjong, whose husband died during construction and whose tears supposedly collapsed part of the wall. The wall symbolizes the dragon, the spirit of China, guarding against external threats. Its influence is immense. It has inspired films and books and became the prototype for modern walls. UNESCO added it to the World Heritage List in 1987. Today, the wall suffers from erosion, tourism, and urbanization. Only 8% is in good condition. In the 2000s, satellite technologies mapped its full length. In 2023, hidden sections were discovered in Mongolia, extending beyond the modern borders of China. In 2025, discoveries shocked the world. In February, archaeologists excavated the oldest section in Shandong province, dating back to approximately 770 BC to 300 years older than previously thought. The 20-kilometer section with earthen ramparts and moats belongs to the period of the Qi Kingdom. and demonstrates early techniques, rammed earth with wooden beams. In April, 9 sections were discovered in Gansu province dating back to the Western Han Dynasty, more than 2,000 years ago. These stone walls and watchtowers reveal the defensive strategies of the era. In March, a fortification from an early period, about 28 centuries ago, was found in a mountain pass with earthen ramparts and moats preceding the unification of China. Drone research has revealed innovations, such as a wave-like design for stability. Projects in 2025 use modern technology for monitoring erosion. Today, the wall is China's largest tourist site. Sections like Badling receive 10 million visitors annually. Restoration continues, though critics note inconsistencies with the historical style. The wall reminds us of unity, linking the past with the present. The Great Wall of China is an eternal guardian, the embodiment of the spirit of the nation. Its curves are like the river of time. The first new wonder concludes its story. Petra, the rose city carved into the rock. The journey leads us to the mysterious Wadi Musa Valley in Jordan, where Petra is hidden, the rose-red city carved into the rocks by the Nabateans, a people who controlled the caravan routes of Arabia. This is the second of the 7 new wonders, chosen in 2007. Petra is not just ruins, but an entire city in a canyon, a symbol of harmony between man and nature, where stone comes to life under the hands of masters. Petra, the Rose City, thanks to the shades of its sandstone, was the capital of the Nabatean kingdom from the 4th century BC to the 2nd century AD, with a population of up to 30,000. The Nabateans were a Semitic people, nomads who became skilled traders. They controlled the routes of incense, spices, and silk from Arabia to the Mediterranean, accumulating wealth to create this masterpiece. The city flourished thanks to a complex water supply system. Aqueducts, cisterns, and dams collected rainwater in the desert, where average annual precipitation is only 150 millimeters, providing an oasis in the arid terrain. Petra occupies 264 square kilometers with more than 800 monuments carved into the rocks. The main entrance is the narrow Sick Canyon, 1.2 kilometers long and 34 meters wide in its narrowest parts. The walls rise to 80 meters, creating natural protection and a dramatic effect. At the end of the canyon, a view opens onto Alcosna, the treasury, a 40-meter facade carved into the rock. It is likely a tomb or a temple, perhaps for King Oretta's eye. The columns, pediments, and urns in the Greco-Roman style are decorated with traces of erosion, giving them a pink tint. Further on is the colonnaded street, with a theatre for 8,000 spectators, also carved into the rock for holding assemblies. The royal tombs, the palace, and the urn tomb rise on the hills. The facades imitate Hellenistic architecture. The monastery of Ad-Dir is reached by an 800-step climb, an enormous facade 45 by 50 meters, likely a temple or tomb with a cross inside, indicating Christian use. The Nabateans used hydraulic systems. 200 kilometers of canals and terracotta pipes collected water. Dams prevented flooding. The city fell in 106 AD, conquered by the Romans under the command of Trajan, becoming the province of Arabia. Earthquakes in 363 and 551 AD caused damage. With the shifting of trade routes, Petra was forgotten by the 7th century. It was rediscovered in 1812 by the Swiss Johann Ludwig Burckhardt, disguised as an Arab, who was searching for the lost city of Vilcabamba. Excavations began in 1929 by the British. In 1958, Jordanians took over management. UNESCO included Petra on the World Heritage List in 1985. Only 15% of the territory has been excavated. Ceramics, coins, and frescoes have been found. Myths about Petra are full of romance. The Nabateans worshipped Jushara, the god of the mountains, and Alutsa, the goddess of fertility. Legends link Petra with Moses. The spring of Ain Musa was supposedly created by his staff. In pop culture, from Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, where Alcosna is the temple of the Holy Grail, to games and books, Petra symbolizes lost civilizations. Its influence can be traced in architecture, from Peruvian houses to global eco projects. Petra holds secrets, while suffering from tourism, about 1 million visitors annually, and erosion. In 2023, Lighthouse mapped the underground structures. In 2025, discoveries shocked the world. In July, archaeologists discovered a hidden tomb under Alcosne with 12 skeletons and artifacts, ceramics, and jewelry from the 1st century BC. This is a rare find with complete burials, revealing Nabatean funerary rituals. The 2025 excavations confirm the tomb's link to the Holy Grail, a chalice similar to the one in the movie, though experts urge caution. A team from St. Andrews extracted the skeletons and 2,000-year-old objects. In April, rock paintings and cisterns were found, testifying to advanced hydraulics. Drones and other technologies analyze erosion. Today, Petra is a UNESCO site attracting 1 million tourists, but with restrictions for protection. The Sick Canyon is lit by candles in the evenings. Petra reminds us of lost civilizations and harmony with nature. Petra is the eternal city in the rock, whispering the secrets of the Nabateans. The rose facades are like a sunset. The second new wonder concludes its story, the statue of Christ the Redeemer, a symbol of faith and hope. The journey carries us across the ocean to sunny Rio de Janeiro, Brazil, where atop Mount Corcovado rises the statue of Christ the Redeemer, the third of the 7 new wonders, chosen in 2007. This monumental figure with arms outspread over the city symbolizes peace, faith, and forgiveness, becoming an icon not only of Brazil, but of the entire Christian world. The statue was erected between 1922 and 1931 on the initiative of the Catholic Church and the residents of Rio, who wished to mark the centennial of Brazil's independence from Portugal. The idea belonged to the priest, Pedro Maria Boss. The project was realized by the Brazilian engineer Rita da Silva Costa, with the participation of the French sculptor, Paul Landowski, and the Romanian artist Georg Lenida, who created the head. Financing. Public donations. Millions of Brazilians contributed, making the monument truly one of the people. Located at an altitude of 710 meters, the statue faces Guanabara Bay, the favelas, and the beaches of Copacabana, embracing the city with an arm span of 28 meters. The statue's dimensions are impressive. The height is 38 meters with an 8-meter pedestal, like a 13-story building. The total weight is 1,145 tons. It is constructed of reinforced concrete, clad in a mosaic of soapstone, which is resistant to erosion. Thousands of triangular tiles were applied by hand. The arms span 28 meters. The head is 3.7 meters. Each palm is $1.30, Tex square meter dollar. Inside, there is a staircase and an elevator for maintenance. At the base lies a chapel for 150 people. Construction was a challenge. Materials were raised up the mountain by railway. Workers risked their lives on scaffolding. The grand opening on October 12, 1931, was illuminated by Guglielmo Marconi from Italy. A radio signal crossed the ocean. The statue has survived storms and lightning. In 2014, lightning chipped off a finger. Its Art Deco form is resistant to winds up to 250 km per hour thanks to aerodynamics. In 2007, it weathered a storm, losing only a few tiles. UNESCO recognized it as part of Rio's landscape in 2012. Annually, 2 million tourists ascend by funicular or on foot. Myths about the statue are full of wonders. Brazilians believe that Christ protects the city. During the carnival, the statue is illuminated in the colors of the flag. Legends tell of visions of angels appearing to the builders. The statue has influenced art from films about Rio to songs. Its copies exist from Lisbon to Vietnam. Restoration continues. In 2020, tiles were replaced, and lightning protection was reinforced. In 2025, the statue is a center of events. In June, Catholics held an environmental campaign at the base. spreading a carpet and calling for climate action ahead of a conference. Thousands of participants highlighted the statue's role in global issues. In July, rare photos appeared from the statue's shoulder, taken by an artist, showcasing the restoration and the view from above. Drones and 3D scanning monitor cracks, preventing weather damage. Today, the statue is a UNESCO site and is illuminated on holidays. It serves as a reminder of the faith that unites people. The statue of Christ the Redeemer is the eternal guardian of Rio. Its arms embrace the world, symbolizing hope amidst chaos. The third new wonder concludes its story. Machu Picchu, the lost city of the Incas. The journey takes us high into the Andes, to the south of Peru, where at an altitude of 2,430 meters hides Machu Picchu, Old Mountain in the Quechua language. This is the fourth of the 7 new wonders, chosen in 2007. A mysterious city built by the Incas in the 15th century, under Emperor Pachacuti. A harmonious blend of architecture and nature, where terraces, temples, and palaces seem to grow out of the cliffs. Machu Picchu was discovered in 1911 by the American Hiram Bingham, who was searching for the lost city of Vilcabamba, but found this wonder, hidden by mists and jungles. The Incas, a civilization without writing or the wheel, created an empire from Colombia to Chile. Machu Picchu served, perhaps, as the emperor's residence, an observatory, or a sacred refuge. The city housed about 1,000 residents, with agricultural terraces fed by irrigation from mountain springs, allowing for the cultivation of corn, potatoes, and coca in the harsh Andean climate. Machu Picchu stretches over 5 kilometers, divided into urban and agricultural sectors. The main entrance is through the Sun Gate, Intipunku, with a panoramic view. The central square is surrounded by temples. The Temple of the Sun with the semicircular tower, Intihuatana, is the site of the Inti Raymi rituals, the festival of the sun. The Temple of the Three Windows symbolizes the three worlds of the Incas: Hanan Pacha the heavens, K Pacha the earth, and Yuku Pacha the underworld. The Konda room, with its carved bird, was likely an altar for sacrifices. Terraces preserved the soil on the slopes thanks to drainage made of gravel and sand. The Incas used polygonal masonry multi-angled blocks fitted together without mortar, resistant to earthquakes. Intihuatana, the hitching post of the sun, served as a calendar, casting shadows during the solstices. The city was abandoned in the 16th century after the Spanish conquest, possibly due to a smallpox epidemic. It remained unknown until 1911 when Bingham and his guides discovered it. Finding mummies and artifacts. Expeditions took thousands of objects to the USA, which were partially returned in 2011. UNESCO recognized Machu Picchu in 1983, and in 2007, it became a new wonder. About 80% has been restored. Crowds of tourists annually create a burden, causing erosion. Myths are full of mysteries. The Incas revered it as a sacred place associated with Viracocha. Bingham suggested it was the cradle of the Incas or a refuge for noble ladies. Modern versions suggest an observatory, a fortress, or a ritual center. Legends of treasures in tunnels add mystique. In pop culture, from Dan Brown to Tomb Raider, Machu Picchu is a symbol of lost secrets. For preservation, UNESCO set a limit of 2,500 visitors daily. In the past decade, LiDARs revealed hidden structures. In 2023, terraces and paths were found. In April 2023, ceremonial platforms and burials were discovered on the Inca Trail, dating back to the 15th century, with ceramics and textiles. In 2025, altars and caves with rock paintings were revealed. A publication in the journal Science confirms the platforms were used for astronomy. In July, burials with 12 skeletons and gold items were found. Drones analyzed the hydraulics. Projects in 2025 protect the monuments from climate change. Today, Machu Picchu is a tourist magnet, with a railway from Cusco and the Inca Trail. New rules in 2025 limit the flow. The city serves as a reminder of ancestral wisdom in harmony with the mountains. Machu Picchu, the eternal city in the clouds. Terraces, steps to the stars, holding the whisper of the Incas. The fourth new wonder concludes its story. Chichén Itzá, the Mayan pyramid, full of enigmas. The journey plunges us into the tropical jungles of the Yucatan Peninsula in Mexico, where Chichén Itzá spreads out, once a thriving city of the Mayan civilization. The name means at the mouth of the well in the Mayan language. This is the fifth of the 7 new wonders, a pinnacle of Mayan engineering and cultural thought, where pyramids, observatories, and ball courts harmonize with cosmic cycles. Chichén Itzá reached its peak between the 6th and 10th centuries, with a zenith in the 10th when the city became the capital, reflecting the influence of the Toltecs who merged the traditions of central Mexico and the Yucatan. The city occupied $5 Tex square kilometer dollar with 50,000 residents. Priests, warriors, and craftsmen lived in stone houses surrounded by fields of corn and sacred cenotes, natural wells, like the sacred cenote, where rituals with sacrifices were conducted. Sacred waters received gold, jade, and human sacrifices to appease the rain gods. The Maya, outstanding astronomers and mathematicians, erected Chichén Itzá as a stone calendar. The buildings are oriented toward the stars and the sun. The center is the Pyramid of Kukulkan, or El Castillo, 24 meters high with a temple at the top. 4 sides, each with 91 steps, plus the platform at the top equals 365, symbolizing the days of the year. Twice a year during the equinox, the shadow of the steps creates the illusion of a crawling serpent, the feathered serpent Kukulkan, the god of fertility. Inside is an earlier pyramid with a jaguar throne and a Chacmal statue, where the hearts of victims might have been kept. Nearby is the Temple of the Warriors with thousands of columns, frescoes of battles, and an altar. The Tzompantli is a skull platform with reliefs, a reminder of death rituals. The Ball Court 4 pits, the largest in Mesoamerica, at 168 meters long, was a site of the symbolic struggle between light and darkness. Losers, according to some data, could be sacrificed. The El Caracol Observatory with its circular tower served for observing Venus and the Moon. Key to the Mayan calendar, construction involved using local limestone without metal, only stone and wood. The precise fitting of blocks and acoustic effects in the pyramid testify to their mastery. The city went into decline in the 13th century due to drought, rebellion, or land exhaustion. It was forgotten until the 19th century, when John Lloyd Stephens and Frederick Catherwood described it in 1843. Excavations began in 1890 through Mexican efforts, and later by the Carnegie Institution. UNESCO recognized Chichén Itzá in 1988. About 20% has been excavated. 2.5 million tourists visit annually. Acid rain harms the monument. Myths are full of enigmas. The Maya believed in Kukulkan, a god from the west, possibly identical to the Toltecs' Quetzalcoatl. Cenotes were portals to Xibalba, the underworld. Treasures were found by Edward Thompson in 1904. In pop culture, Chichén Itzá is associated with the end of the world according to the Mayan calendar in 2012. A popular misconception. Its influence extends from Mexican pyramids to modern observatories. Chichén Itzá is a UNESCO site with large-scale restoration. In the past decade, Lighthouse discovered paths under the jungle. In 2023, underground caves with artifacts were found. In March, a hidden tunnel under Kukulkan with ritual objects from the 10th century was found. In July, a team from Indiana University revealed cenotes and paths to unexplored ruins with frescoes, and ceramics. A publication in National Geographic confirms altars with jade are changing the understanding of rituals. In April, an underground network of caves with human remains and offerings to the rain god Chuk was discovered. Drones and acoustics analyze why the pyramid emits the sound of a quetzal when one claps. Today, Chichén Itzá is a major tourist center with 2.5 million visitors and light shows during the equinox. New rules in 2025 limit access. The city serves as a reminder of the Mayan calendar and their connection with the cosmos. Chichen Itza, an eternal calendar in stone. Pyramids are stairways to the stars, holding prophecy. The fifth new wonder concludes its story. The Colosseum, an arena of spectacle and death. The journey carries us to the eternal city of Rome, where the Colosseum rises a grandiose amphitheater, the sixth of the seven new wonders. Chosen in 2007, this elliptical giant, the Flavian Amphitheater, is the embodiment of the Roman Empire's power and passion for spectacle, where gladiators fought to the death under the roar of the crowd. The Colosseum was built between 70 and 80 AD by order of Vespasian of the Flavian dynasty, on the site of a lake in Nero's gardens, to erase the memory of the tyrant and win over the people. Financing came from the spoils of the Jewish war, including the treasures of the temple in Jerusalem. Construction was completed by his son Titus, opening the amphitheater with 100-day games, where 5,000 animals perished. Rome was then a metropolis with 1 million residents. The Colosseum was the epicenter of entertainment, housing from 50,000 to 80,000 spectators, from senators to slaves. The name of the architect is unknown, but the design is a pinnacle of Roman engineering using concrete, tuff, and travertine. The scale is staggering. An ellipse 188 by 156 meters, 48 meters high, like a 15-story building. 80 entrances ensured rapid evacuation. The arena, 83 by 48 meters, was covered with sand to absorb blood. Beneath the arena lay the hypogeum underground corridors for gladiators, animals, and machinery. Lifts raised lions and elephants through trapdoors, creating a surprise effect. The stands were divided by status. The podium for the emperor and senators, the Marnianum for the knights, and the upper tiers for the plebeians and women. An awning, the velarium made of sails, protected from the sun and was tensioned by sailors. The games included venations, animal hunts, and naumachia. Naval battles for which the arena was flooded with water. Construction took 10 years. It required the labor of thousands of slaves, including Jewish captives. Arches and vaults distributed the weight of 300,000 tons. The Colosseum was used for 4 centuries until the 6th, when earthquakes and the decline of the empire brought the games to an end. In the Middle Ages, it became a quarry. The stones went toward cathedrals and palaces. In the 18th century, Pope Benedict XVI consecrated it as a site of Christian martyrdom. Restoration began in the 19th century. UNESCO included the Colosseum in the World Heritage List in 1980. Today, it is an open-air museum with underground tours. Myths are full of drama. Gladiators, slaves, criminals, or volunteers supposedly at Avenue Caesar. Morituriti salutant. Though this is likely an exaggeration, legends of Christian martyrs exist, though many executions took place in other amphitheaters. The Colosseum inspired films like Gladiator, books, and stadiums. Its influence ranges from the Los Angeles Memorial Coliseum to boxing arenas. The Colosseum is a UNESCO site. In 2023, a restoration of the arena cost €25 million. In January, near the Colosseum, remains of a rare Egyptian blue pigment dating back to the 2nd millennium BC were found in the House of Aurelia, revealing the luxury of imperial interiors and trade links with Egypt. In August, during the construction of a metro at Piazza Venezia, the homes of Roman workers were discovered multi-story complexes of the Republican era, with mosaics and frescoes. In April, a gladiator skeleton with lion bites was found in England. In Rome, accompanying research on artifacts from the Colosseum is underway. 3D scanning is reconstructing the hypogeum. Today, there are 7 million visitors and night tours. The 2025 restoration focuses on climate resilience. The Colosseum serves as a reminder of spectacles where life and death were part of the show. The Colosseum is an eternal arena. The echo of the crowd's roar sounds within its walls, a symbol of Rome's power. The 6th new wonder concludes its story. Next, The Taj Mahal, the Mausoleum of Eternal Love. The journey concludes in northern India, in Agra, where the Taj Mahal shines on the banks of the Yamuna. This snow-white mausoleum, built between 1632 and 1653 by order of the Mughal Emperor Shah Jahan in memory of his beloved wife Mumtaz Mahal, who died giving birth to their 14th child, is the pinnacle of Islamic architecture and a symbol of eternal love. Symmetry, marble, and gardens create an illusion of paradise on earth. Agra in the 17th century was the capital of the Mughal Empire, stretching from Afghanistan to Bengal. Shah Jahan, grandson of Akbar the Great, ruled during an era of artistic prosperity. The Taj Mahal, the crown of palaces, was conceived as the tomb of Mumtaz, but also became the final resting place of the emperor. Their sarcophagi rest side by side in an underground chamber. The visible cenotaphs above are empty for protection against looters. Construction cost the equivalent of 32 million rupees, the annual budget of the empire. The Taj Mahal is striking in its symmetry. The plan is a 55 meters square. The central dome is 73 meters high, surrounded by 4 minarets of 40 meters each. The minarets are slightly tilted outward. If an earthquake occurs, they will fall away, not damaging the mausoleum. The facade is clad in snow-white Macrona marble, inlaid with semi-precious stones jasper, lapis lazuli, onyx in the Petra dura technique, forming floral ornaments and calligraphy from the Quran. The dome, inspired by Persian and Indian traditions, seems to float due to an optical illusion. Four Shaba gardens, divided by canals, symbolize the rivers of paradise, cypresses and fountains, and the reflection of the mausoleum in the water create an enchanting mirror effect. The entrance gate, made of red sandstone, is decorated with reliefs and calligraphy. Inside is an octagonal chamber with a carved marble yoli screen, letting in light like lace. Construction was led by architects Ustad Ahmad Lahori and Ustad Isa, with the participation of 20,000 masters from India, Persia, and Turkey, calligraphers from Baghdad, inlayers from Bukhara. Marble was carried by elephants from Rajasthan, stones from Afghanistan and China. The Taj Mahal survived centuries, but not without trials. After Mumtaz's death, Shah Jahan planned a black mausoleum opposite it, but was overthrown by his son Aurangzeb and imprisoned in the Agra fort, from where he gazed upon his creation until his death in 1666. In the 18th century, Jats and Marathas plundered it, removing gold and gemstones. The British in the 19th used it for picnics. Restoration began under Lord Curzon in 1901. In the 20th century, pollution from Agra's factories posed a threat. The marble was yellowing, which led to the creation of a green zone. UNESCO included the Taj Mahal in the World Heritage List in 1983. Myths are full of romance and tragedy. Legend states, Shah Jahan cut off the hands of the masters so they would not repeat the masterpiece of fiction. Another legend about the Black Taj Mahal, supposedly visible in the ruins opposite, is likely an optical illusion or the remains of a garden. Some researchers see Masonic symbols or Hindu motifs in the symmetry, suggesting a rebuilt Shiva temple. This theory has been refuted by historians. The Taj Mahal also inspired the poetry of Rabindranath Tagore, who called it a tear on the cheek of eternity, and Bollywood music. Its influence is seen in the Grant Memorial in New York and the copy in Bangladesh. Modern research and restoration preserve its splendor. 8 million tourists annually bring in revenue, but create a burden. The monument suffers from pollution. In the period from 2018 to 2023, the marble was cleaned with Multani clay to remove stains. In 2025, work continues. In June 2024, the Archaeological Survey of India identified a water leak in the main dome at a height of 73 meters, using thermal scanning, leading to urgent restoration of the roof and dome. To minimize intervention, drones were used and experts were involved. In July, routine restoration continued with warnings to tourists about possible restrictions. At the beginning of the year, a government report noted the Taj Mahal brought in 200 97 crore rupees over 5 years. It is the most profitable monument of the Archaeological Survey, which finances further work. 3-dimensional scanning models erosion, studying how the marble changes shades at dawn and sunset from pink to gold. Projects in 2025 include environmental initiatives, planting trees around the complex to reduce pollution. Today, the Taj Mahal, a UNESCO site, has restrictions on photography and footwear inside. During a full moon, the mausoleum is lit by moonlight, creating an enchanting sight. Tourists arrive at dawn to see the mist over the Yamuna, enveloping the creation in a mystical aura. It serves as a reminder of love that has outlived time and the fragility of beauty. The Taj Mahal is an eternal monument to love, its domes like pearls in the crown of India, whispering the story of Shah Jahan and Mumtaz. The 7th new wonder concludes its story. And so, dear listeners, our journey through the 14 greatest creations of humanity, the 7 wonders of antiquity, and the 7 new wonders of the modern age, comes to a close. We have passed through millennia from the scorching sands of Giza, where the Great Pyramid of Khufu stands as an eternal guardian of time, through the legendary Hanging Gardens of Babylon, whose terraces dissolve into Babylonian myths, to the shining temple of Artemis at Ephesus, once brilliant with 127 columns under the Ionian sun. We contemplated the majestic statue of Zeus at Olympia, a chryselephantine Colossus before which pilgrims wept with gratitude, and the mausoleum at Halicarnassus, the tomb that became a synonym for Artemisia's eternal love for Mausolus. We peered into the horizon of Rhodes, where the bronze Helios once rose, and followed the beam of the Lighthouse of Alexandria, scattering the gloom among Mediterranean waters. Then the journey transported us to the new wonders, chosen by the voices of millions in our time. The Great Wall of China, like a giant dragon coiling through mountains and deserts, told of the resilience and unity of a people. The rose rocks of Petra revealed the secrets of the Nabateans, traders who carved a city from stone. The statue of Christ the Redeemer with arms spread over Rio reminded us of the faith that unites continents. Machu Picchu, soaring in the Andean clouds, whispered of the wisdom of the Incas, who lived in harmony with the heavens. Chichen Itza, the stone calendar of the Maya, opened the connection of architecture to cosmic cycles. The Colosseum in Rome made us hear the echo of gladiator fights and the roar of 80,000 spectators. And, finally, the Taj Mahal, a marble poem of love whose domes shine in the moonlight over the waters of the Yamuna. Each of these wonders is not just stone, bronze, or marble. They are stories frozen in matter about human genius, indomitable faith, and the passionate desire to leave a mark in eternity. These structures, whether the half-collapsed ruins of the Colosseum where the shadows of gladiators still flicker among the arches, or the rose facades of Petra holding the secrets of a vanished people, remind us of the fragility and simultaneously the greatness of civilizations. They teach us that even what seems unshakable is subject to the relentless passage of time. The Pyramid of Khufu, having stood for 4.5 millennia, slowly loses its casing under the onslaught of sandstorms. The Colossus of Rhodes, having survived only 56 years, left behind only legends and images on coins. But the dreams embodied in these wonders live in our imagination, surviving the collapse of empires and the change of eras. The pyramid builders believed they were creating a stairway to the stars for their pharaoh. The Nabateans of Petra carved tombs, convinced of the eternity of their kings. Shah Jahan erected the Taj Mahal, so that his love for Mumtaz would never fade. And although the stones crumble and the bronze goes to the smelter, these stories continue to resonate. In the whisper of the wind among the ruins of Ephesus, in the murmur of water in the canals of the Taj Mahal, in the sound of steps on the stairs of Machu Picchu, modern discoveries constantly reveal new facets of these wonders. Modern tomography discovers hidden chambers in the Great Pyramid. Underwater drones raise blocks of the Lighthouse of Alexandria from the harbor floor. LiDARs reveal forgotten parts in the jungle around Chichen Itza. Archaeologists find tombs under Alcos named Petra. Each such find is like a new chapter in the endless book of human history, inviting us to re-evaluate the past. These wonders are not museum exhibits behind glass, but living monuments with which millions of people interact. Tourists from all over the world climb the Great Wall of China to touch the stones laid by the hands of millions of builders. Pilgrims stand at the foot of the statue of Christ, gazing at the outstretched arms of the Redeemer. Scientists continue excavations, artists create virtual reconstructions, writers weave new legends. The wonders of the world have ceased to be the property only of the ancients. They belong to all of humanity, uniting us across time and space. Let these stories accompany you this night, carrying you into dreams where pyramids shine under the countless stars of the Egyptian sky, and lighthouses light the way for ships through the age-old darkness. Imagine yourself on the blooming terraces of the Hanging Gardens, breathing in the scent of roses and lilies to the murmur of fountains. Imagine how a ray of sunlight glides over the golden mantle of Zeus of Olympia, and the thunder seems ready to come to life on his throne. Walk in your mind through the narrow Sick Canyon, until the rose facade of Alcosna slowly opens before you, like the curtain of a grandiose performance. Hear the roar of the crowd in the Colosseum as a gladiator raises his sword in a final salute. Feel the cool marble of the Taj Mahal under your palm as the first rays of dawn color the dome a delicate pink. Climb to the summit of the Pyramid of Kukulkan on the day of the equinox, and watch as the serpent's shadow slowly crawls down the steps. 1,000-year-old ritual, repeating with the precision of a clockwork mechanism. Breathe in the thin air of Machu Picchu, shrouded in morning mist, and feel yourself closer to the stars than ever before. These wonders are mirrors reflecting our essence. They show what a human is capable of when led by faith, love, the pursuit of glory, or a thirst for immortality. The Pyramid of Khufu speaks of the power and divinity of the pharaohs. The Hanging Gardens of love conquering the harshness of the desert. The Temple of Artemis of reverence for the divine. The statue of Zeus of honoring the Olympic spirit. The Mausoleum of grief transformed into stone. The Colossus of the triumph of freedom. The Lighthouse of the light of knowledge scattering the darkness of ignorance. The Great Wall of the protection of the homeland and the unity of the people. Petra of the harmony between man and nature. The statue of Christ of faith, embracing the whole world. Machu Picchu of the wisdom of living in accord with the mountains and the sky. Chichen Itza of the striving to understand the cosmos through stone. The Colosseum of the glory and cruelty of empires, and the Taj Mahal of love that knows no death. Each wonder is a message from the past to the future. The builders of these monuments have long turned to dust, but their creations continue to speak to us. They ask, what will you leave behind? What mark will you etch upon the canvas of time? What wonders will you erect for those who come after you? Perhaps the answer lies not in stone and bronze, but in the ideas, knowledge, and kindness that we pass on to the next generations. For true wonders are not only grandiose buildings, but also the human spirit, capable of dreaming, creating, and loving in spite of everything. And when you close your eyes tonight, let your dreams be not only of ancient ruins and shining facades, but also of those who created them. The nameless stone masons of Giza, the Nabatean sculptors of Petra, the Incan astronomers of Machu Picchu, the Roman engineers of the Colosseum. Their hands have long since crumbled, but the work of their hands lives on. And in this lies the true immortality to which all builders of wonders aspired. Good night, dear friends. May your dreams be full of wonders ancient and new, lost and found, made of stone and invisible. May the whisper of the ages lull you to sleep, and may the light of the Alexandria lighthouse illuminate your path until morning. And when the sun rises again over the Giza plateau, over the canyons of Petra, over the Andean peaks of Machu Picchu, remember that you are now forever connected to these wonders, for their stories have become part of your memory. Until we meet again in this cozy corner, where the past whispers its secrets and the future awaits its builders,